Now that you've completed the project setup for your roof trusses, first off, what we'll be doing is having a look at getting yourself started on inserting some roof trusses on a standard project. Thereafter, we'll go individually into all of the tools, discussing what they do, how they work, and how you're going to be implementing them within your project. With the roof trusses, we'll only be using the bottom row of tools within the Roof Designer tab. To get started, what we're going to be doing is just inserting a roof plane by using the auto roof function. To insert a truss, you'll be using some tools to select your profiles to generate a shape for the roof truss. Without those profiles selected, you don't have a shape to connect your trusses to. So within the Truss Designer tab in the bottom row of tools, we're going to go to the far right hand side there. We've got these two buttons called BC and TC. The BC is short for the bottom chord selection, and the TC is short for top chord selection right there. Now, as it explains right there, the bottom chord would be selecting a bottom plate to have your trusses conform to, and the TC would be selecting a top plane to conform your truss to. So what we'll be doing, we can go to the BC or TC depending on what you'll be selecting in this case. To do the BC selection, you'll make sure that you have a ceiling plane right there to conform your bottom chord straight on top of that ceiling. We'll go more into detail on how the BC selection is used when we start dealing with different shapes of trusses. For the TC selection, you're going to be selecting your roof planes right there to make sure that we have something to draw our trusses within. Without having the selection done, you won't have anything to snap your trusses to when drawing them in. The next step, we'll go to the Draw Truss tool right there, the very first one. Select that by using the left click button. Now to draw your trusses within this project, we are going to start from the outside of my project and finish it off on the opposite end. And remember, on the outside of that project right there. The reason we do this from outside to outside is if you start on the inside right there, for example's sake, we'll just draw it right there, it has some difficulty snapping to the full shape of your roof. So we'll make sure that we go from outside to outside, not the inside right there. Otherwise, it will only snap half of the truss onto this project. We're going to use the undo button right there just to remove the unwanted trusses. There we go. So that's the first step in inserting a truss within your project. You go to the BC, TC selection right there. The reason we go for the BC first and then the TC, it just creates a refresh selection for the next step that you're going to be inserting a truss. Just like that. Then go to the Draw Truss tool and we'll draw it from outside to outside. And there we go. We've drawn our first two trusses on this project. After inserting your two first trusses, we need to make sure that the trusses conform to your general design practice. What we'll do is we'll go to the selection tool right there, select the truss, and we'll move it closer to the inside of that wall. In this case, I'm going to be moving my truss 100 millimeters away from the inside of the wall to the center of my truss. So I'll insert 100 millimeters onto that window right there. It is going to pop up with this warning stating that the truss T1 has a spacing that exceeds the default truss spacing. In this case, it is actually detecting the T2 truss being at a set distance away, and it is saying because of your default truss spacing in your project settings, it is actually exceeding that default spacing. You can click OK on that step, and then we'll make sure to insert trusses within these two spaces. Next, we'll go to the T2 truss right there and make sure that this is also 100 millimeters away from the inside of that wall. Now, please make sure to consult your engineer about the spacing from the walls so that they can give you their preferred method of installation on these trusses. Next, I need you to make sure that you still have your two roof planes selected from the BC-TC selections right there. Then we'll go to the Select Multiple Trusses tool right there. And we'll draw a line from outside of the truss all the way across to the opposite truss right there. The reason we do this is to make sure that we have a selection between two trusses on both ends, detecting a space between these two selected trusses, which we will insert evenly spaced trusses within these two trusses. A window will pop up saying reprofile the selected trusses. We will select no, because currently my trusses do conform to the current profile that I've selected. Next, we're going to insert the two trusses by using the add evenly spaced trusses between two selected. After this, I want you to go to the select truss tool and select one of the trusses in there. You'll see the spacing, how it is currently set to have even spacing all the way from the starting truss to the finishing truss right there. Currently, your settings have been created to have a 900mm center to center spacing, and with this tool, it automatically detects the closest spacing to 900 and creates those trusses within those two selected points. If you want to go the route of having exactly 900mm spacing trusses, or whatever preference you've set in your project settings, we're going to delete all but one of the trusses on our project by using the Select Multiple Trusses tool from inside right there to the outside right there. It's going to ask you, do you want to reprofile the selected trusses? We'll click no, and we can delete the trusses by using the delete key on our keyboard, or we can use the delete selected trusses black cross right there in the tool tab. Next, if you want to add the default spacing on the trusses from start to finish using the 900 in your settings, we're going to make sure that we've got the BCTC selected correctly right there for the profile selection. And then we'll go to the next tool called Add Default Spaced Trusses. So we'll click on that tool right there. Select your first truss, and we're going to do a second selection again. Please note, I'm not holding my mouse button in. I have just done one click and a second click. It picks the truss up. I can move my mouse all the way to the right hand side and do a third click on the end where I want to place the truss.